The film starts in the fortified African kingdom of Wakanda, where some two warriors are being chased by a weird alien, and one of them falls and gets captured. Meanwhile, as the citizens of Wakanda welcome Prince T'Challa back to his native home, the remaining warrior appears and warns them of the intruders, but he gets fried by an alien. King T'Chaka therefore leaves behind his son and braces himself to fight the invaders, saying the responsibility belongs to the king, and he puts on the Black Panther. However, King T'Chaka is killed by General Herr Kleiser, the Chitauri alien leader, disguised as a Nazi commander, when they fall over a cliff, and Prince T'Challa watches as Kleiser escapes. Following this, Prince T'Challa inherits the throne, along with the Black Panther technology, and in the king's chambers he also sees the story of Captain America, who also fought the aliens. Elsewhere in America, Captain America fights against a terrorist group, but he suffers from the trauma of fighting with the General Kleiser, and in the fight he gets wounded. Black Widow also arrives to help him, and she scorns Steve for always working alone. Later, General Nick Fury asks Steve to forget the past incidents of fighting the Chitauri aliens and freezing for 70 years, which is causing him to try to work alone. Nick Fury tells Black Widow that if Steve doesn't listen, he will have to be locked up with Bruce Banner. Meanwhile, Dr. Banner is interrogated for losing control of the Hulk and even turning on the Avengers during the fight, and he claims it was the only way to defeat the aliens. When he starts explaining himself using many words, they hit him with a sedative to prevent any of those unwanted encounters. Later that night, as Captain Hairstyle is having a nightmare of his previous fights, he gets a visit from Black Panther, who is here to inform them of his father's death by General Kleiser. Nick Fury is surprised that Kleiser is still alive, and Cap is disappointed that the alien has been killed twice but still returns. Following this, Nick Fury gathers the Avengers for a serious talk, starting with Janet, the Wasp, followed by Tony Stark, who is exhausted after fishing in the North Pole. Meanwhile, the model, Thor, who is doing some morning yoga, sees a terrifying vision of the Avengers' death, and he fails to gather with them. Later, Dr. Betty Ross visits Bruce Banner to inform him that the aliens are still out there, and they are analyzing the alien wreckage, whose vibranium has become brittle. However, she refuses to include Dr. Banner in the research since no one trusts him anymore. Nick Fury later explains to the Avengers about General Kleiser, who is a shape-shifting alien, and he just assassinated the king of Wakanda. The team also knows very little of Wakanda, since they're an isolated nation who have blocked any satellite surveillance. Hairstyles wishes to go into Wakanda alone, since he has a grudge with Kleiser. But Nick Fury refuses and sends them as a team to go under the radar and gather any information on why the Chitauri aliens are focused on Wakanda. Plus, he also appoints Black Widow as the mission leader. Elsewhere in Wakanda, King T'Challa recalls how his father taught him that in the future, he will have to make the hard but right decisions for the kingdom, even when the elders don't agree with the change that's coming. Meanwhile, Black Widow arrives with her band members at the forest of Wakanda, and they spread out to search for anything interesting they can find. The Black Panther finds them searching his backyard and warns them to leave, and Captain America says they're after the same man. The king therefore asks Cap to follow him alone, and the two carefully sneak into the kingdom to avoid Cap's fancy attire from being seen. The Wakandan guards discover the other Avengers hiding in their forest, and they return to report to the king. Black Panther later explains to Captain America that the Chitauri arrived at Wakanda sometime earlier, wanting to take over the heart of Wakanda, but the Wakandans rose up and defeated them, and now they regard all intruders as enemies. Just then, the king's advisor called Nakinda walks in to find T'Challa with an intruder and runs out. The Wakandans fight against the Avengers, but Black Panther walks in and stops the exchange. Hank Pym has been poisoned with an arrow, and T'Challa says he will provide the antidote, but only if they leave. Nick Fury asks the Avengers to stop visiting Wakanda, while also discovering that Thor is missing and hasn't been spotted at any joint lately. Meanwhile, Thor is seeking his father's guidance on the death vision of the Avengers that he saw earlier, and he is shown a vision of a Chitauri alien ship speeding towards Earth. Odin asks Thor not to be involved in the affairs of men and return to Asgard, but Thor can't see himself parting with the hair gels on Earth, and he refuses. Meanwhile, Dr. Ross discovers the vibranium from the alien ships provides an enormous source of energy, which they plan on tapping. On the other hand, Dr. Banner thinks he has found a solution to dealing with the Chitauri aliens, but the interrogator Dr. Euler is having none of that and keeps adding more sedative to his cell. Later, while surveying at the Avengers ship, Captain America spots a Chitauri alien and goes after it despite his bandmates advising him against it. Elsewhere, the Wakandan elders accuse King T'Challa of going against the land's sacred decrees of protecting them against the outside world, and they relieve him of his royal authority, leaving the elders to lead the kingdom. Black Panther walks out in sadness, where he goes after a Chitauri alien lurking in the woods. Captain Colors finds Black Panther attempting to make the alien talk, and he agrees to go with S.H.I.E.L.D. to see if they are able to discover something. Captain America takes the king and the alien to the ship, but they soon learn that it is actually the shape-shifting General Kleiser, disguised as Black Panther. The two aliens then escape using an escape ship, and Kleiser orders his ship in space to fire on the Avengers ship. Thor watches the scenes from the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, which seems to be in line with his death visions, while Black Panther watches from the woods as the ship crashes. However, the team are soon rescued by Thor, who teleports to Wakanda and brings them back to base. The Wasp is wounded, and Hank Pym takes her to the medic while injured Iron Man only needs his AI assistant, Jarvis, and he chooses another war suit with some sweet guns. Nick Fury is informed that the warship remains in orbit above Africa, and is now emitting a strange energy field which will encompass the planet in minutes. Later, when Dr. Betty visits Bruce, he tells her that the Hulk's gamma radiation weakens the vibranium, but again, they can't bet on his anger, so he sits back in disappointment. Following this, the Chitauri aliens launch attacks on major cities on Earth, and King T'Challa asks for assistance from S.H.I.E.L.D., claiming that what the aliens are after is in Wakanda. The king reveals that there is an ancient meteorite buried beneath their land, which contains a mountain of vibranium, which the Wakandans have been using to forge their weapons. General Kleiser then orders the destruction of the Wakandan powering source, but soon enough, Thor teleports the models into the party, and Black Panther welcomes them. Thor had vowed that he would not abandon humanity, so he is the first to spring into action, while Iron Man follows to show off his new suit, and the rest join in. Elsewhere, Janet the Wasp recovers, while Betty discovers that Banner's gamma radiator actually weakens the vibranium, and the two escape together. The Chitauri aliens then attack S.H.I.E.L.D., and they kill Dr. Euler, after asking him to kill Bruce Banner, but Betty and the Wasp arrive just in time to defeat them. Bruce then asks the two to take the weapon to Nick Fury as he dies there, and they leave in a jet to Wakanda. Meanwhile, in the human versus alien fight, General Kleiser defeats Iron Man and Black Panther, while Nick Fury is injured from an explosion. The Wakanda warriors then distract the Chitauri aliens, while Iron Man and Widow collect the gamma weapon from Dr. Betty. Iron Man then flies into the main ship, accompanied by the shrunk Ant-Man to destroy the ship's power core. Meanwhile, Black Panther tears up General Kleiser to bits, but he stubbornly regenerates, so they trick him into falling into a pool of liquid vibranium and leave him trapped as it solidifies. Later, Bruce Banner's lifeless body transforms into the Hulk, and he rises to fight the alien invaders. Iron Man then attacks the Chitauri ship power core, which explodes. Iron Man also catches Hank during the fall, and Hank reunites with his wife, the Wasp, but sadly, he passes away. The Chitauri alien ship is crushing towards Earth, and Iron Man offers to deflect it away from the city, which he successfully does, but it drains his life support. Thor then grabs his hammer and summons his lightning powers, which revives Iron Man. The Wakandans also bow to T'Challa as their true king, and he orders them to bury the stubborn General Kleiser. Later, with the alien attack ended, the Hulk sees Betty one last time before leaping away, and Janet encourages her that at least he's still out there, as she herself mourns for Hank Pym. Captain America and Black Widow begin a romantic relationship, while Nick Fury brings Goldilocks a pint of mead, and the world celebrates victory over the aliens as the exciting film comes to an end. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. I'll be back with another interesting movie recap. Until then, take care.